What happened to me shouldn't happen to anyone, but I'm glad it did. As I sat at 35,000 feet disguised as an ordinary traveler, the weight of my mission for Horizon Skyway settled heavily on my shoulders. I wasn't just Angela Taylor, a black CEO of a multi-billion-dollar logistics company. I was the unwelcome truth about racial bias inside the airline industry. Boarding the plane, tensions crackled in the air like static electricity. My heart raced as flight attendant Rachel, with her perfectly coiffed hair and an air of superiority, dismissed my first-class ticket, scanning my presence as if it were an offense. "This must be a mistake," she sneered, all but pronouncing my disqualification based on mere assumptions. I felt the discomfort of other passengers seep into the atmosphere, their eyes flitting between us like trapped fireflies searching for light. As security officers Kim and Lee approached, a hush fell over the cabin. Unease rippled through the crowd. I stood my ground, pen in hand, determined to document this systemic failure. Faced with disbelief, I planned my bold revelation. For I was not just another anonymous traveler. I was a voice that needed to be heard. When I finally introduced myself as the CEO, gasps echoed in the cabin, a tide of realization washing over the passengers. With every word, I rallied their support, pushing for immediate change. Rachel and her supervisor, Victoria, need to go. We will create an inclusivity fund. Applause erupted, transforming disbelief into collective resolve. In the aftermath, swift actions followed. Rachel and Victoria were dismissed, and Dr. Evelyn Chang stepped in to facilitate the necessary training. Horizon Skyway emerged as a beacon of hope in the industry, a role model for inclusivity and diversity. Reflecting on my journey, I can say this: change is often ignited by discomfort, driven by those willing to stand firm in the face of adversity. And maybe, through my story, others will find the courage to speak out against judgment and assumptions, fostering a dialogue that can finally shine light where it's needed most. Angela Taylor clutched her boarding pass, a veneer of calm masking the storm inside her. She approached the gate, her disguise, sweater, jeans, and a casual air, protecting her from the expectations that often come with her title. "First-class passenger," she announced, handing her ticket to the flight attendant, Rachel, who barely glanced at it. "Sorry, hun, this one's not valid," Rachel said, her tone dripping with condescension. "Moving on." Angela blinked. That's not right, "Next, please," Rachel snapped, her eyes gleaming with authority. The murmur of irritation from the crowded boarding area prickled Angela's skin. She could feel the weight of their gazes, some curious, others sympathetic. "No, wait," Angela insisted, her heart racing. "I have a first-class ticket, look at it." Rachel leaned back, arms crossed. "This is a private jet for investors only," she proclaimed, raising her voice. "You're not one of them." The tension thickened as two security officers, Kim and Lee, stepped in, drawn by Rachel's escalating tone. Angela's stomach twisted. "Please, it's just a misunderstanding." "Stand back," Kim ordered, eyeing Angela like a common troublemaker. "Wait!" Angela raised her voice, her frustration boiling over. "I am the CEO of a major company. Look again." The cabin fell silent, disbelief coursing through the air. Rachel's face paled as she retrieved Angela's ticket, realizing her blunder. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Angela stood firm, heart pounding, determined to make her voice heard and let the world bear witness. Angela sat in her seat, the hum of engines competing with the vibrant anticipation that rippled through the cabin. She wore a disguise that felt more like armor than a shroud, her heart racing against the weight of her mission. Her eyes caught the flight attendant, Rachel, who approached with a practiced smile that soured upon seeing Angela's boarding pass. "Excuse me, but is this your ticket?" Rachel's tone dripped with condescension. With each challenging word, a flush crept to Angela's cheeks, but she mastered her breathing, unwilling to show the frustration simmering beneath her composed facade. As Rachel dismissed her, claiming the ticket was a misprint purely based on assumptions, the growing tension sparked murmurs among the passengers. Angela could feel the collective disbelief. Their eyes shifted between her and Rachel, an unspoken alliance forming in the air. When security arrived, Angela remained silent, stepping back as officers assessed the situation. Even as Rachel's embarrassment started to bloom, The silent energy in the cabin seemed to amplify Angela's inner turmoil. A few passengers whispered words of sympathy, yet the weight of the moment pressed down heavily. Take with a sudden spark, she stood, her voice steady yet powerful, declaring, "I am Angela Taylor, the CEO of this airline." Gasps echoed around her as disbelief washed over the cabin. She didn't just reveal her identity, she laid bare the systemic failures she was determined to confront. As she cited her experiences and demanded immediate changes, a sense of solidarity emerged. Rachel's initial dismissal transformed into her undoing, not just for herself, but for the culture that had allowed discrimination to fester unchecked. With every word, the emotional boiling point had been reached, not just for Angela, but for those who witnessed the injustice unfold. The air shifted, and it was clear. She would no longer suffer in silence. Angela took a deep breath, the chaotic energy in the cabin buzzing with anticipation. She could feel the weight of eyes on her, some curious, others sympathetic, and a few judgmental. Despite her initial doubt, clarity began to settle in. She glanced at her ticket again, the bold "First Class" printed in bold letters, and her resolve solidified. "Rachel," she said calmly, her voice steady, "I know you're doing your job, but this is not just a matter of a ticket." The flight attendant shot her a confused look, and Angela continued, "My identity doesn't change based on how I dress. You need to acknowledge that." Murmurs spread through the cabin, passengers straining to absorb the unfolding drama. Angela took a subtle step closer, her heart racing, but her demeanor unyielding. "I'm the CEO of this airline. I won't tolerate this kind of treatment on my flights." The shift was palpable. Security officers exchanging glances. A passenger nodded in agreement. "Yeah, let her through." Another added, "This is ridiculous." Each outburst felt like a small victory. With newfound courage, Angela faced the back of the plane, addressing the crowd. "It's time we hold ourselves accountable. Change starts here." A ripple of applause erupted, and for the first time, Angela felt a sense of community beside her. She took a deep breath again. This was her reclaiming power, and each comment from her fellow passengers felt like a piece of a larger movement. Together, let's push for a world where everyone belongs. In the cramped cabin, the tension swells as Angela Taylor rises, revealing her composed presence amongst whispering passengers. "I'm Angela Taylor, CEO of this company," she announces, her voice steady yet resonant, casting a web of silence over the once chaotic scene. Shock spreads like wildfire, passengers exchanging incredulous glances, their discomfort morphing into a collective gasp of recognition when they realize who she is. Rachel's face drains of color, her self-assured demeanor unraveling as she stares incredulously at Angela's unwavering resolve. "You deny my first-class ticket based on assumptions?" Angela states, her tone even but firm. "This isn't just about me, it's about dignity in the face of prejudice." A murmur of agreement ripples through the cabin, the formerly passive audience awakening to the injustice unfolding before them. As Angela lays out her vision for reform, the atmosphere shifts palpably. She declares the immediate dismissal of Rachel and her supervisor Victoria, advocating for an inclusivity fund aimed at eradicating discrimination from Horizon Skyways culture. The words hang in the air, heavy with significance, as passengers begin to nod, their earlier hesitance giving way to quiet applause, resonating into a rousing chorus of support. In stark contrast, Rachel stumbles, her authority stripped away as the security officers escort her off the plane. Her eyes dart nervously, desperately seeking sympathy from her peers, but they turn away. A silent judgment passed as they realize they've been complicit in her preconceived biases. Tangela watches, a calm triumph washing over her as the plane erupts in applause, not just for her resolution, but for their shared revelation. Dr. Evelyn Chang steps on board to initiate the training, her arrival signaling a shift toward accountability, reaffirming that change is not merely desired, but imminent. As the flight resumes its course, there's a tangible sense of purpose in the air, the cabin once again in motion but transformed, each chuckle, each voice rising in camaraderie, now a collective acknowledgement of the silent strength they witnessed, a step forward for a new era of inclusivity. As I look back on that turbulent flight, I'm reminded of the power of vulnerability and the strength found in standing up for what's right. The chaos that erupted wasn't just about me claiming my rightful seat. It became a mirror reflecting our collective understanding of bias and privilege. I never anticipated that my undercover mission would transform into a profound moment of connection among strangers. Yet it did. The sound of applause still resonates in my mind, a poignant reminder of what can happen when individuals unite against injustice. I've often wondered about the cost of this confrontation. Did I go too far in revealing my identity, or was it a necessary step to evoke change? I realize that in a world often polarized by race and class, we must confront our assumptions and our biases head-on. Playwright, what would you have done in my situation? Have you ever faced bias that made you question your own place in the world? I invite you to share your experiences in the comments, sparking a conversation about power, injustice, and the human spirit's resilience. Let's discuss what it means to create a more inclusive environment together.